Hi everyone, my name is Gustavo Siqueira. I'll take it over the second part. The first test that we'll be talking about is flexibility. Flexibility, the definition is range of motion about a joint, a human body joint, of course. This is a test which will measure how stretched you are. So the reliability of this test, it depends of how warm up you are before you proceed the test. Um, Usually you move it slowly until you reach the maximum position that you can stretch with the technique of the stretch, of course. In this test, you cannot do ballistic movements, so it's a static. You just go as far as you can. Once you reach your peak, you stop. You cannot go back and forth like this. So I choose these two exercises, these two tests, which the first one, it's called sit and reach test, which consists in pretty much the athlete or the person, they will be sit down, they will have like a rule in front of them, and they will push the rule as far as they can with their hands. And once they get the reach, once they reach the peak, that's gonna be how far they can stretch. The second one is the overhead squat. This is used a lot on CrossFit, which consists in pretty much you get a bar or whatever that you can make it straight, pass over your head while you're squatting. And also I have a really interesting study here that shows that there is no relation of how flexible you are or how good you can stretch with injuries. So it doesn't mean that you're very flexible that get you won't get injuries, muscle injury mainly, which was really interesting. With usually what you heard that you need to stretch before or after practice. This study showed that there is no relation with that. So now we'll be talking about balance and stability. Balance, you can find two definitions for that. The first one is dynamic and equilibrium, and the second one is maintains body center of gravity over surface. Stability is the ability to return to a position after the system got a disturbance. Balance is really important for the body, mainly for athletes, which there's a lot of relations with poor balance with the increase of risk of injury, and that's what we can find also in the study. Shashank, Gay, and colleagues, they made a study which you can find on the end of the PowerPoint, where which is kind of obviously, they found out the athletes with poor balance, they had more they were more prone to get injuries on the knee. And a good way to access stability is working on balance. So as you guys can see here, I got these two exercises. This one, which is called balance arrow scoring system, which consists in a person or in an athlete. They would close their eyes and they will perform 3 positions. The first one, they will have both feet on the ground and try to get it stable, try to get the equilibrium that they need. The second one, they will raise one of their legs or one of their foot. That'll be enough with the eyes closed. It's really hard, try it. And the third one, they will be in a 45-degree position with one foot in front of another, with the eyes closed. You can perform this in either a soft ground or in a hard ground. So you can get a foam as an example if the hard ground gets too easy, and you can challenge your athlete to try to get balance on this. The second test is the star execution test, which consists in almost you create a star on the ground and you're gonna ask for your athlete to stay in one leg while he's trying to touch the other leg on the end of these points here. So you have anterior, lateral, medial, posterior, and also these other ones here. It's a good test to check if your athlete has actually a good balance. Okay, moving on, I'll be talking about body composition. The definition of body composition is proportions by waist fat and lean tissue. In the body composition testing, we have several types out there in the market. We have the DEXA, is the example of the expensive one, and we have the SkinFold that I use here as the example of the cheapest one. DEXA, unless you're like an elite athlete, or if you have a lot of money and you want to spend somehow, you can use that. It's really accurate, it's really good. You can get tests on that if you want it. Although if you're like me and you don't have as much money to pay to get tested in one of those, you can get one at Amazon for $12 and you can keep track of your body mass without have to spend like a lot of money on that. And it's really accurate and it's really simple to use. You can find the testing online or on YouTube. They will teach you how to do it, and you know it's a good way and a cheaper way to keep track in what you're doing in your trainings and with your athletes if you're gonna work with athletes in the future. Okay, I'll be talking about anthropometry. The definition is the measurements of height, weight, and girth. The height will be measured with a statiometer. If we don't have one, we can use just a tape in the wall that will do. The test requires that the athletes they are barefoot or at least with a sock, so they cannot be wearing slides, regular shoes or cleats. We also need to take their weight. It's better if you have a certified scale balance or electronic one, so the chance of error they are minimal. Also, it's always good to tell your athletes to wear light clothes, so no jackets, no long pants, also no shoes. And it's better if you can take the weight in the morning, right after the elimination of fluids and right before they intake those fluids back, so you can have a more accurate number. Okay, let's talk about testing conditioning. It's pretty important to follow a standard with those tests. So let's say if you want to reproduce a test that requires a certain type of equipment, you should get the same type of that equipment. So the tests, they can be the same. The athletes that are performing those tests, they must be rest and ready to go. So they can have practice 30 minutes before the test. Otherwise, that will affect the numbers in the end of the day, which is not good for the test. Also, supplementation, it's not recommended because it can have an effect on the athlete's performance. So let's say the athlete had take a creatine scoop, let's put it like this. It might be slightly, but you know, it might have some effect on the athlete's performance, which that's not what we want. We want the raw athlete, what he can actually perform without any supplementation. And also the athletes, they must be familiar with the exercise that they are performing. So let's say you want to test an overhead squat. If the athlete have never performed that before, the test day, it won't be the first day that he want to do it, because he needs to know what he's doing before, and he needs to be familiarized with that to get the best results of the test. Okay, continue from the last slide. All this data is important if the athlete is improving somehow. So we're looking for improvements for with those data, and that's why we had the difference score, which pretty much is the numbers when the athlete start and the numbers when the athlete finish the practice or the training during the whole year. So it's a long-term test. It's a long-term data. You can also measure that with percent change. It's just another type of measurements. Although we have some limitations. One of them is athletes with they start the training session with high quality and high intensity. They will improve less than those untrained athletes or the athletes that started really poorly their training sessions. And the other factor is that some athletes, they might not be putting the all effort in those tests for lack of motivation is one example. So it's important for the professional, the strength condition professional, to always try to give a motivation and a reason for the athlete keeping doing that. Okay, moving on, I'll be talking now about some types of statistics. We have the descriptive statistics, which will describe a group of data, and inside of this descriptive statistics, we have three types of measurements. We have central tendency, that's where the data tends to get together. We will be using mean, mode, to use that as a measurement. We have also variability. Variability is what we're gonna use to measure the difference between the data. We'll be using the standard deviation and the range. Standard deviation. We also have the percentile rank, and let me stop it. We have also percentile rank, which is when you get the lowest scores in a test and make the percentile out of it. So moving to our last slide, develop an athletic profile. We've been talking a lot of how to test and what data to use, and that's how we're gonna use it. You need to select applicable tests for your athletes. So let's say if you have a soccer player, you don't want to make them run 3 straight miles, since that will never happen in a game, and there is no way you test that in a real life situation for him. Which also comes to choose valid and reliable tests. So try to get the tests that we show to you. Those are not the only ones, but those are the most reliable out there. They are scientific proof. A lot of journals and articles prove those tests, and they've been reproduced a long time. So we have solid data from those tests. Like the yo-yo test, it's a really good one. Also try to test as many athletes as possible, so you can get the greatest data that you could get with a really accurate number. Also try to determine the smallest worthwhile change, and conduct and repeat the test. Repeat the test as many times as you can, or as many times you think that is useful, and try to present the results with images, pictures, data with a table. Be really clear with the numbers. and use that data to show to your athletes, or for the president of your club or the president of your school, that you got improvements, that what are you doing, the data that you're using, the tests that you're doing, they are worth it. Because there's a lot of tests that you can, you keep in doing it, but in the end of the day, you don't get any results. So if you cannot show that your athletes are improving, what is the point to do the test? So this last one is really important if you want to become a really a great strength coach professional.